Welcome to Scene, where the art world meets the real world. Every 2 weeks, we sit down with emerging and established artists to offer a genuine glimpse into their lives and minds, all in an authentic and totally straightforward manner. I'm Carrie Scott, your host. And with 2 decades of experience as a curator and art historian, I firmly believe in the transformative power of art, if it's seen. I know John Pawson well. I've interviewed him, launched exhibitions with him. I've even convinced him to let me sell his photography. So sitting down for another interview wasn't all that easy because I wanted to reveal the side of him that I know. His softer, funny side, and his love for the creative, collaborative process. But John is a pro, always composed and unwavering. He's a giant in the design world and he knows exactly what he's doing. But what struck me during our conversation at his country house with his wonderful wife, Catherine, is that John Pawson might not actually be a minimalist. Bear with me. Minimalism as an artistic movement is all about simplicity, stripping away excess, and focusing on essential elements. John's work embodies this with the monochrome tones and the absence of art on his walls. Yet in his house, every corner, detail, stone, and thread demands attention. It's a maximalist's dream in terms of engagement, though without the clutter. And maybe I don't fully grasp minimalism, but I left that interview thinking John's work deserves a whole new term. He challenges our relationship with material and material possessions and aesthetic beauty, embodying minimalist goals while creating spaces that captivate and focus the mind. John isn't just a minimalist, or he shouldn't be put into a box like that. He's something more. He makes us see more by showing less. And maybe that is the whole point of minimalism, but this interview was mind-opening, bending. How many times do you think you've been interviewed?
Oh, no idea.
No idea.
Not many.
No, how many times?
I don't know.
Thousands.
Never even thought about it, to be honest.
No. Do you enjoy being interviewed?
Well, the thing is that architects usually aren't very articulate, so it's a bit of a strain because you're used to designing things, so you're used to illustrating on paper and doing it. So you're not used to. I guess at school you're taught to try and sell your project. At architecture school, I mean, they say that to be a successful architect you need deep inner conviction, a modicum of talent, but also charm. Because of the whole client thing. I'm not sure about Mies, because Mies van der, clearly was in some way. I mean, he's just the best architect that ever lived. But I was amazed to get a lunch audience with Philip Johnson in the Four Seasons a long time ago. And the only reason to have the lunch for me was to ask him about Mies, which of course is the wrong thing to do with Philip Johnson, not to ask him about his own work. So I said to him, Mies must have had, extraordinary charm to get where he got, as well as the other things. He said, I don't know about that. Maybe after a few martinis.
But architects definitely have there's this persona of, you're supposed to be scary.
Scared?
Scary.
Oh, so architects scary, are they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they probably work on that. I mean, it's a way of getting what they want, I suppose.
How do you mean?
Well, architects, are always, first of all, you have to find a client. You have to get a job. Otherwise, you can't build, and you can't show what you can do. So they're always in this terrible sort of competition to get work and to get clients. I mean, I remember when I was still at the AA as a mature student and, thinking about eventually getting something to build. And I was there with two of the well-known architects, and we were having a really nice chat. And then out of the corner of their eye, they saw potential clients, and they were off.
Took off.
It was like, nothing comes in, I mean, it's not getting a client at any cost, I think. I mean, I think there's enough there you don't have to do someone else in. But you have to be slightly wary because, a lot of architects are very, very competitive.
But you're very good at sort of platforming yourself or selling yourself without selling yourself.
Well, I've been very lucky that it's just happened. I mean, I've never gone out there and, people have seen what I've done for myself and asked if I'd do it for them, and it just gradually grew like that. It's morphed into what it is. I mean, there was never a plan. So it's always been, following the river.
Was there actually, though, a moment where you thought, having, as you just said, you did your girlfriend's apartment.
Yeah.
People saw that, got excited about it. But was there a moment where you thought, oh, okay, no, I'm an architect. I can do this?
To be honest, I've never felt like that. I always felt I could do it, but of course, I mean, the whole thing about architecture, of course, is not, I mean, obviously it's not just me. I mean, it's for most of my working life, I've had a team of 25 architects, and all incredibly talented and driven, and it's just keeping them together, really, and trying to persuade them the best way. And of course, most of the time they completely ignore what I say. So I never win completely.
What?
Even with the people I'm working with.
And what do you think the best way is?
My way. But that's not necessarily the case. But it's a slow process anyway, building and architecture. So there is time to review things. But of course, if you don't review it quick, and their ideas or the ideas that are already out there for the project, that you're kind of slightly stuck with them.
But you just said that you don't know that you necessarily think of yourself as an architect. So then, who is John Pawson?
No, I think of myself as an architect personally, even though I'm not qualified, because I do build stuff, build things and put things together, and of course, with 40 or 50 years experience, you could call that an education. But there is a guy out there, a person out there, who writes in. He's a complete pedant, and he writes in all the time to say, "Can I just point out John Pawson is not an architect?" And then there's this all to and froing about what he must be, or he's good as, or how ridiculous. Why doesn't he get qualified? It's mildly amusing, but it's not big on the...
People like a box.
Yes, they do. Yes, it makes them uncomfortable if they can't.
But it is kind of interesting to me to think about, who would you be if you weren't the king of minimalism?
The king of minimalism.
That's what people call you.
That's a misnomer if ever I heard one. Yeah.
Why? The king part or the minimalism part?
Either. I mean, obviously, it's contradictory to say king and minimal in the same words. And minimalism is such an unspecific term, really, because it covers so many different movements and professions. I mean, there's minimalism in music and in art and of course in architecture. But ism is always, I mean, of course, it's very popular and people get something from it. And of course, we like to use one word when you probably need 5 or 6 to describe it. I was in South Africa at a drinks party with my parents-in-law, and it was really, really charming, a long time ago. And of course, they'd all been told that I was a microscopic architect. So I didn't get it to begin with, but it is obviously circulated.
Microscopic
Microscopic architect. So it would be quite fun to keep that.
That's
But minimalist architect
it's better.
is to me the same, or as misleading.
How do you describe this then?
Well, it's not minimal. I mean, of course, that you know, especially if you're English, you accept titles you're given. Because if you start arguing every time somebody says, "Are you a minimal architect?" and you say, "No, I'm not," and then you finish 5-minute talk, and they say, "Well, that's a minimal architect, isn't it?" So so I've learned to say yes.
Yes, I am the king of minimalism.
Yes, I am an architect, but I mean, I think, there's so many words. I mean, this is definitely not minimal. It's highly complicated to achieve for a start, and it's on many different levels, not as simple as it could be. Minimum, which is a better word really, or is easier to define, is they say in the dictionary is that it's a state that you achieve with an object or a space when you can't add anything. You can't improve it by adding. So that would be a good minimum.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But really, who would you be if you weren't an architect?
Well, when I was at school, I mean, actually, I wanted to be an architect at school, and they said you can't be an architect because you don't do maths, which of course is bollocks. And of course, in the 60s, Mick Jagger was the hero. So I wanted to have, narrow hips and wiggle on stage and have lots of skinny people. And of course, it wasn't as serious. But the interesting thing is, when I after school, I worked for my father for 6 years in the fashion business, and ended up running the design department there. Which is in a sense parallel to what I do now. It's running a design department of architects. But that, unfortunately, it didn't kind of work out with my father's business. I mean, my part in it. And so I saw this documentary on TV about a Zen Buddhist monastery in Japan on top of a mountain. So I thought, well, that's what I'll do.
Why?
Oh, well, it was so beautiful. And there are all these, the monks were practicing kendo at dawn. It was exquisite architecture and very Zen. So I thought, at age 24, I mean, I might as well have been 12. It was so childish. I thought, I'd lost my job anyway, and I was going to get married in December, and that fell through. So I thought, I'll just take off and go to the monastery, which I did.
So almost in desperation?
No, I just had, forget all of that, which was, my family business, and I'll go and become a Zen Buddhist monk forever. I mean, what I was thinking, my God. Anyway, I got there at Christmas, Christmas Day, and then by New Year I was in the monastery and lasted a night.
One whole night.
One whole night. And then I got a job teaching at university for 3 or 4 years and became a photographer in Japan with an agency. And then eventually, after 10 or 20 years, became an architect. Got to do architecture.
So, but lots of people from the outside looking in, people cite the Calvin Klein store as like the moment you made it. Do you think that's accurate?
Well, because you're on the inside, either you have this ridiculous self-confidence, but you think you made it before the Calvin Klein store. But obviously, for public perception and on a scale thing, obviously it was very, very different. I mean, probably what was starting to get noticed and make sense was the very early adopters like Doris Saatchi got me to do her house, which is a kind of big tick. And then we did a house in Mallorca for Hans Neuendorf, who was a German art dealer. And it's very interesting because he originally was going to build a hacienda, a sort of Spanish farmhouse. And so his wife and his mother-in-law said, isn't it a pity you don't do something modern? So we managed to show him what could be done, and he built it. And then we didn't get a new house for 15 years.
15 years.
15 years to the next house.
I didn't know that.
No.
But
Architecture's slow.
but then you did the book.
I did the book, the GG book, the Spanish book.
Yeah.
Yeah. They asked me. I was in 92, and Ian Schrager had a copy of that book in 92. And Calvin Klein, his friend, was looking for somebody to help him design his first shop. And he turned up at the office, and he was outside, but I didn't know that. And I'd had a drink at lunch because I'd had a bit of a rough morning. So I was just sitting there, just about to have a snooze in the studio. And the phone went, and his office in New York said, "Oh, we've got Calvin Klein for you. Can we put him through?" And I said, yes. Sleep. Hi. And he said, "Oh, can I come and see you?" And I said, yes. He said, "Well, I'm outside in the car." So Calvin Klein bound into the office, and we were in a basement, and it looked like travel agents because we were all sitting in a line. And it's very difficult now to know, but he was literally, for some people, the most famous person on the planet. I mean, he was, the underwear was in Times Square, his face was everywhere, and hugely successful and very charming, and it was great. But I was there to make the store happen for him and as he wanted it.
How did he want it?
Well, he likes strong contrasts, for example. He likes white and black. That's too strong for me. But I learned.
Adapting.
Yes, and I learned to listen. I mean, if you don't listen, you've had it, I think, by with these guys. I mean, you're up there with the big boys. So you better learn to listen, and you better learn to do what they want. I mean, obviously, he wants to be guided, but he would have liked to be an architect. And there are things that I definitely think were I wouldn't have done them in the store. But with his kind of level of involvement and everything, it was great for me. And changed my life. I mean, every part of it, the architecture, the finances, everything.
The interesting, the natural segue for me is just to think about, you also work with a lot of art dealers, right? You just mentioned one.
Yeah.
But that always seems like a conflict because you famously don't put anything on any walls, and you don't like things on walls because you like the wall. So just, you were saying that Calvin sort of knew what he wanted and that you had to learn to listen. Is it really hard working with someone or a client who has amassed an art collection that they want you to build the house, but they also want to put art on it?
Yes, I mean, obviously I would never let it be a conflict because, obviously you're going to do what you want with your own house. It's not a thing. But it's interesting that clients who come for private houses who are big collectors or artists themselves or dealers or whatever, don't necessarily want the walls too many pictures, or if any. I mean, I did an apartment in London for a charming couple from Chicago who had a major collection of old masters, works on paper. So they had everything, Leonardo, whatever. So I was really looking forward to, the very best of the best on the wall, not too many. And they said, we'd really like it without anything. And they're big collectors, serious. It was quite sweet.
What did they do with all the work?
Oh, that's never a problem for big collectors. I mean, you can never hang what you got. But I'm not really involved with even though I'm building the houses for collectors, I'm not part of their collecting. They don't say to me, I've got this Agnes Martin offered to me, do you like it? Or where would I put it? I mean, it's like, I'm not. I do the building and they look after the other stuff.
You don't ever say, ooh, what about a Donald Judd over there or Jenny Savile? Never.
I wouldn't dream of that. I mean, one of my younger clients wanted to buy an Agnes Martin, and they weren't collectors really, but they could afford to be, and they hadn't really got going, and they said they were in a market for an Agnes Martin, which I thought was fantastic. So of course I said, oh, well, maybe I can help. And very naively. I mean, what I was thinking, I don't know, because first of all you have to find it, then you've got to make sure that it's all in good nick, and at the right price. Then you've got to negotiate, and then deliver, and then does it fit into the future collection? Blah 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 blah. I mean,
story
it's a good lesson.
Of my life.
Yes.
Story of my life. Yeah. But no, it surprises me that you don't say, what about this here? What about that there? Do you do it with furniture? Do you suggest?
The key pieces, yes. Key pieces. If the client wants me to, yes. I mean, that would normally, it's part of the service. So, I mean, it's less work for me if they don't want it. But we normally do the furniture, most of the loose furniture, if we can. Either design it or choose it, and the lighting. But the art, no.
Do you think that for someone to be as successful as you've been, that you have to live and breathe this 24 hours a day? Is there any separation between what you do and who you are? Everything in this house, everything is
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no separation. But I mean, thank you for saying I'm successful. Of course, I don't know how you measure that, but certainly I've never, I do this because it's something that I really enjoy doing. So it's not about making that successful. And what's important to me is to get the next project as the very best I can.
Is that what drives you? Just make it better?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I mean, that's really all I'm interested in is the work and making the body of work as good as possible. I mean, anything else of course. I mean, I'm not talking about family or Catherine or friends. I mean, I'm just talking about my career or the work. But I'm not interested in legacy or what other people think, particularly only in so much as that you have to care, obviously, if you want from where the next job's coming. So you need it for that. And it's funny, I mean, we've kept the same size office and we don't go out to get work, it comes to us. So sometimes it's lean and sometimes it's a bit too plentiful. You need to manage, but we're able to concentrate on the work.
And legacy never pops into your head? I mean, I feel...
What doesn't pop, sorry?
Legacy.
Not at all.
Architecture's so permanent, and its position in time is so different.
Well, that we take very seriously. Obviously, we realize that that if you build a building, especially from scratch and everything, and it's going to be around for years and years. And that's what I try and explain to... I mean, it doesn't often happen, but when you're designing the buildings, especially private houses, you're not going to make them eccentric to follow the client's wishes, because it's not going to be his later down the line, his or hers later down the line.
How different is the process designing a place like here, where you have bones, but you said earlier you stripped it all the way back, versus starting from scratch?
Well, a lot similar, a lot very, very different. When you're when you're given the bones, you have a lot of pointers of which direction you're going and a lot of restrictions. And the proportions are set to a certain extent. But it's very, very complicated getting these places just right. And there's a lot of detailing and a lot of junctions and things which are brand new. Because it's parts of it are 17th century, parts of it are 18th century, and there are details still left from those days which you've got to incorporate, and yet you still have very contemporary, windows and things. But on a new building from scratch, you can map it out. Obviously, you have to be there, but you can map it out on paper as you want. So there's more scope, but less detail. Anyway, in the end, it's a lot of work, whatever you're doing.
Do you collect things?
I always say no, and then they say, "Oh, well, what about your postcards?" Because I don't throw any postcards away. So I've got boxes of postcards. I don't get so many now, obviously.
That people have sent you?
Yes, but that's over 50 years or more. So I just thought, because they're all the same size, there's some attraction for me in that. I've obviously got all the photographs I've ever taken, so that's a lot. A lot. Yeah, and that's before digital. So lots of boxes of.
And cameras.
Cameras, I don't throw them away, but I maybe should, because the reason I haven't got them is they're not working.
They're not working.
No.
Why do you still have them?
A good point. And they just seemed a shame. And maybe I thought I might do that. They're just in the safe. They're film cameras, but they're not quite right.
I like the idea, though, that you see your photography as a collection of images, like not an archive, not a body of work, but for you, it's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, but I'm coming around to the idea that I might be a photographer.
Oh, finally. It's only taken 13 years or something.
Yeah.
But that's strange to me, because you were a photographer, right? You're taking photos in Japan.
Yes. Well, I was taking photographs for an agency in Japan, but traveling to Europe to take them. Sports photography. Right.
But and all the while, you've taken photographs.
Yes.
You never stopped doing that?
And I've never stopped doing that, not since Japan. And
but you're not a photographer.
I am now.
I'm sure that same guy is going to come on and say, actually, you're not.
I must. Yeah, to get accredited as a press photographer, do you have to have certain photographic qualifications, or is it just a license?
I think so.
Oh dear.
Got to be able to do a few things.
Yeah, and also I wasn't qualified to teach, so I'm not doing too good on that.
Basically, just blagging your way through life.
Well, I didn't personally. I didn't reappraise people of the situation.
But okay, so the photography thing, people have called you an accidental photographer.
Have they?
Yeah.
Is that my fault?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
The accidental photographer.
The accidental photographer.
It's a good title.
But you, pre-Instagram, did Spectrum, the book, right?
No. I did a visual inventory.
That was first.
Before Spectrum. And then Spectrum is 11% Instagram photos. And the rest, 89%, non-Instagram. Not published on Instagram.
The Instagram thing is worth talking about, even though I said to you I was cross that people are talking about it so much. Instagram has a lane and a purpose, and it's helpful in lots of ways to lots of people. But for you, has it changed anything? I mean, you have a big following on Instagram. You're a big deal.
It hasn't changed a thing. No.
Has it brought clients in? Have you got clients through it?
No. But I don't monitor how clients come to me. I never ask them, why did you choose me? How did you get to me? What are you thinking about? Like an aid to marketing. But Max in the office was actually came up on Instagram itself. There's some agencies have done a review of a review of 7,000 architects in Britain that do Instagram. And I mean, I was very, very surprised, but I'm the third most popular out of 7,000. So Zaha Hadid has 1.5 million followers, Norman Foster, and then John Pawson, and then all the rest. I guess it's very strange. I mean, there's 446,000. But yes, I mean, I don't know what it really means, except I appreciate it being.
It's just another way of collecting, right?
Yeah. I mean, because most of the photography that I did recently has tended to be here, and even here there's a limit. So I haven't been posting recently, but it seems a bit unfair not to, having somehow got this following.
How in like looking at your photography, do you feel funny when you see it up? Does it feel different to you than on a page?
It's much nicer, bigger. You get used to iPhone size, and then when you see it big, it's a pity you can't, have Instagram and say you can only see it on a big screen or an iPad or something, because size does matter in that sense.
Is there any work of art that you would allow to go up on the walls in here?
Oh yeah.
I don't believe you.
The walls I don't know about the walls, but I mean the Carl Andre would be nice on the floor. A Judd wall piece progression could go in at the end of the corridor. I mean, I've got some sculpture here because we're doing the house. We're having to repair the house in London. So there's a Ken Price and a John Chamberlain.
Not on the wall.
No, there's sculpture on the table. And there's Cheney.
Yeah.
On
it's great.
Leaning
against the wall. So
yeah.
I suppose that's something.
Yeah.
Have you worked with many artists?
Yes. Yeah. Well, because I sort of started out doing Waddington Galleries because of Hester, my girlfriend at the time and mother of Caius and Phoebe. And so I tended to meet Michael Craig Martin and people like that. And obviously I've worked with Wayne McGregor for the dance, for the sets, Bruce Chatwin.
Bryan Adams,
yeah.
Mapplethorpe.
Robert Mapplethorpe. I haven't actually worked with Robert Mapplethorpe. I just hung out. He's photographed my work. And Bruce, I did Bruce's apartment. Yeah, and obviously Calvin and Karl Lagerfeld, which never went through. But it was very entertaining.
Never went through.
He got very keen on having me do the bookshop in Paris and his apartment in Paris, and then his house in Biarritz, and then the swimming pool in Biarritz, and then the tennis court and so on, and it was all moving very, very fast. And he used to buy 30 copies of my book and tear out the pages and write over them. So I got these incredible letters.
How wonderful.
And I thought it was a bit extravagant to the extreme, and then one day I never heard from him. And he paid me, he'd done all the payments as one, because he couldn't be bothered to write out checks. So I had the money, and I said, what's happened to Carl? And they say, his staff, they say, we have no idea. And I said, well, isn't that a bit strange? And they said, well, you've been paid, haven't you? And I'm like, well, that's not the point. You want to build the work.
You want to do the thing.
And if you're not going to build, you at least would like to know. But I wouldn't have, I would have paid Carl to spend that time with him, because it was a complete performance the whole time you were with him. was, he made me, I had to stand while we took off in the private plane from Paris. And the angle of attack, or whatever they call it, is very sharp. So of course I fell and my coffee then spilled.
Oh,
and there are two things Karl Lagerfeld hates. One is people spilling coffee, obviously, on his work. Well, it was actually my work, but I'd given it to him. And the other one was circles.
Circles?
He doesn't like round things. And I'd put a round screen around, a natural screen around the tennis court.
Do you think that's why he never spoke to you again?
No, he told me at the time, I don't do round.
Do you appreciate that he'd like that he knows what he likes and doesn't want to be messed with?
I appreciated the audience. I mean, to have an audience with Karl Lagerfeld, I would have, as I said, I would have paid. Amazing. Very, very bright guy. Very, very, very quick. You had to keep up.
I'm sure everyone asks you this. Is there someone that you would like, the ideal client, the person who you'd like to design for and you haven't had the chance to?
Well, it's not usually the person. It's the project. But you obviously need the person with the project, and because we're a small office, there are things that are precluded from us. Like a sports stadium or a railway or airport or something like that. It would be difficult. I mean, I'd like to do something like that, but you'd very much be, one of a gigantic team, which is fine. I mean, I think Norman Foster does it incredibly well because it's his work. I mean, it's his office's work, and there's very special ones he's done. I think I've done pretty well. I mean, not everyone gets to do Cistercian Trappist monastery from scratch in the 21st century. So, and then get to do a few more. It's so funny because when I started this, you are the guy that does the shops, and I say, yeah. Well, you're the one that does all the books. So then now I'm the one that does the churches.
You have done a few. I mean, one of my favorites is the one in somewhere in Germany, and I can't remember.
Augsburg.
Thank you.
Yeah. Augsburg.
But that's a remarkable space.
Yeah, it's and the light is fantastic. We put onyx on instead of glass, so the quality of the light coming through is very beautiful. And it's a parish church, Catholic parish church for Augsburg. So, and the priest wanted the altar and all the goings on to be forward. So that's right in the middle. And then you see this beautiful empty space behind with the very famous 14th century wooden sculpture of Christ. And it's great because when it was consecrated, they invited everyone. So there were like 3,000 people. I mean, it was like, not to sit, just to get in. And the bishop, I had to knock on the door, and he said, "Who's there?" And then you say, "Oh, it's John Pawson," or whatever it is. You're let in, and there's some symbol, the architect handing over, and then everyone just pushed like that to get in, as if they were. I don't know what they thought they were going to see. Anyway, of course, it was so different from before, and the first two couples that got through, who were quite mature, they got through, and they were like, "Well, what is this? This is awful." And I thought, "Oh my God!" It's like, no, and but they got pushed over in the scrum, and everyone else was very enthusiastic. So it was few.
Does criticism hate you? Does it, or do you ducks back? Is it? Well,
touch wood. I mean, I don't read below the line, as they say, on these posts and things like that. Because I don't do much public building, any criticism tends to be very focused and practical and from a client, or it was a shock. The design museum was the shock. The feedback on that, because it was an existing building, some of the proportions and the spaces were dictated. And for example, the atrium is huge and goes up thing. And so people came and they said, oh, the atrium's too big, it's too small, it's too narrow, it's too wide, it's too cold. And have you seen he's used oak? But then there's too much white. I mean, and it just went on. And literally, they had 1 million visitors in a year and a quarter. And every single one had a different opinion. That's what public buildings are about.
Well, and especially the design museum, right? Because
yes, because it's designed by a designer. Design.
And you go there to sort of look at things and criticize them anyway, or look at them critically. It's probably a better way of putting it. And so you're under scrutiny from the off.
And from your peers.
Yeah.
Yes. I'd say, again, touch wood, I got off lightly.
You got off lightly?
No, I mean, not with the design museum, but generally.
From criticism?
Yeah, I mean, there's not been it, and any that's come, I've thought, well, you know, it's flattering, kind of. I've sort of turned it around in my head. I mean, because I'm so used to it, because I got 4 sisters, and they are maximalists, you would say, to use the other opposite thing. And my sister Diana, she wrote to me right way back, and she sent me a blank piece of white paper in an envelope. And I thought, wow, this is a bit. And then when I asked what did she said, that's my membership application for the Minimalist Club.
I like her.
I've had a lot of that from them. It's good because they never allow you to get big-headed. It's just they're all older.
I think most artists are trying to solve a problem, right? And it's usually a problem they've had their entire lives.
Right.
And that the work is the way that they're solving the problem.
Right.
What do you think that's accurate? Do you think you've had are you working out a...
Well, I don't think of myself as an artist. I think of myself as a designer. And I've always thought you get into dangerous territory as an architect if you, I can't even think of any names, but you know, architects doing art, fine art, or sculpture or paintings. There isn't, I mean, Corbusier, but not too many more. And certainly, there's nobody who's, and also artists doing architecture, not too many successful ones.
But okay, take away the artist part. I think creatives will put you in that category. They're trying to solve a problem, right? They're trying to work out.
Yes. And in terms of architecture, it's you know, it's very pragmatic problems. It's, you know, and it's you are putting places together, and what you want them to do is have an atmosphere. And when people walk in, you want them to sort of go to expel air and go, you know, this feels good, or this moves me. You know, it's something special. And the only way you can do it is the way that all architects have, you know, to do it with, and that is, you know, light and materials and proportion and scale and all the other things. And that's all you've got. And, you know, and you hope that there is some good atmosphere.
Do you have a favorite room or space?
No, because I mean, here, for example, there are 28 rooms, and Catherine was a bit upset that the finishes in all the rooms are the same standard, so there's no hierarchy. So, but in terms of, I mean, some, you know, in London, the top floor, we have a flat roof. So I was keen to have an outside shower. So I have the whole of the ceiling is glass, so you don't see any frame. So it's just sky, and you can retract it completely. And the room is, I think, 1.6 meters by 1.6, which is my span. So if it's been a hard night, I can put my hands on the wall to support myself, and then I can douse myself with this outside.
And have air.
And have cold air, yeah. Yeah, it's, things like that. It's nice to be able to do those things.
Yeah.
And they're not actually, I mean, of course they're expensive, but they're not daft.
But bathrooms, that way you stole my line, shower rooms. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, but you've...
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, because it is interesting, that thing of hierarchy, right? Everything is treated the same way. So it doesn't surprise me to hear you don't have a favorite. Do you have a favorite element to work with? Like glass more than concrete, or...
Well, as I mentioned, light. Light would be number one. If you said that's all you can have. Because there's no architecture without natural light. That Louis Kahn said that first. I've been saying it ever since.
Who do you think you design for? Or what do you think drives you? Like, why do you keep going?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because of all the other things that I've done, except probably haven't done a paper round. But, I've done building work as well to get by. But architecture is the only thing that I've found that is every single moment of every day is pleasurable for me. I mean, I'm spoiled, obviously, and I'm able to do what I want, but it's just pure, I mean, there are bits that I avoid.
Like what?
Well, the bits in the middle, I like the bit at the beginning, the designing, and I like the bit at the end when you see what you designed, built, and there can be quite a big gap. And there's a lot of hard work to make sure that the details we do are done properly, and helped a lot with the guys in the office, people in the office.
Do you like talking about your work? Was this okay?
How am I doing?
Pretty good. We're probably done though. Thank you.
We're done?
Yeah.
Oh Lord, no. Help.
I think so. No, seriously, thank you. That was great.
Yeah, no. Catherine will come back and say, oh gosh, your favourite subject. You. It's quite healthy.
What, talking about yourself? Yeah, I mean, people
No.
pay lots of money to talk about themselves.
Yes.
I think that's the entire psychoanalytical.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. No, I was thinking Catherine saying that, not me.
I like that you've sort of surrounded yourself with women who beat yourself up. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we've been very lucky with strong women.
Well, you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thank you. Glad I passed the audition.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Scene Podcast. If you liked what you heard, I'd love it if you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to connect with us between episodes, follow us on Instagram at WatchSceneArt. I'm Carrie Scott, and I'll see you next time. Get it?